Hi everybody, this is David with the Discount Dragon, and we are going to try something a little new today. We've done tutorials in the past, and we have done opinion pieces in the past, and now we're going to try kind of combining the two and multitasking, something which I am not great at. But nevertheless, this will be the first of possibly a series of videos in which I will be showing a little bit of how I work and also talking about and explaining where I think the future lies in terms of art and society's interaction with the artist society, and just kind of where art's going in the future and the potential it has. So today I will be working on this piece, which is my vampire skull fragment. As you can see, I've already put a little bit of white on there. It's not a fully finished coat of white, but it's a little bit of a start. I didn't feel like starting completely from scratch. This piece is kind of purplish and black in areas. I used several different polymer clays to make the piece, so it's not one consistent color. This is one that I made earlier today. This one is all one color. It was kind of a mostly white. I made it with the glow-in-the-dark and the glow-in-the-dark and the translucent polymer clays. And then I just kind of accented it and highlighted it with some different versions of brown and black and so forth. So this one turned out pretty nice. It was pretty much the right color to start with, so it took a lot less work and a lot less painting. Nevertheless, a good result. With this one, we're going to be going in a bit of a different direction, and we pretty much have to, since the original material doesn't lend itself to the same sort of finish. Alright, so let's get started. Now, as pretty much everybody and their dog knows, 3D printing and similar technologies are rising in usage. 3D printing, along with 3D scanning, can help artists making three-dimensional work like this to reproduce their art without a deep knowledge of computer technology. So that is coming along, and if we choose to take advantage of that, that could give us access to bigger markets and more versatility. Now, on the painting side of things, I want to talk about this here, which is a gloss, medium, and varnish. Since I work mainly with acrylics and I don't have a whole lot of patience and I like my stuff to be durable, this is a really, really useful medium to have. Now this one is empty because I used this entire container. So I'll go and grab a smaller one which has some gloss, medium, and varnish left. What this stuff does is it allows the paint to stick better and be more durable. And since acrylics dry super fast, what that means is you can put on a coat of paint and then you can paint over top of that coat almost immediately. With just straight acrylic paint, you have to be careful not to damage the underlying layer. But with this stuff mixed in with your paint, you're pretty much bulletproof. So I'm using this almost, not with every paint, but with almost all the paint that I use to finish my product. So let's make sure I don't have any glop in this palette well, and I don't. So 3D printing and 3D scanning allows you to take a piece of 3D artwork like this skull or any kind of sculpture and make a digital copy of it. So you make a computer file that has all the features of the original. And then you can take that and have it 3D printed with minimal input on your end. If you get somebody that is familiar with this sort of process, you pass it off to them, let them take care of it, and you can get finished pieces in a variety of materials, really. Now, what most of you are probably familiar with 3D printing is plastic pieces. One of the reasons for this is the plastic is very cheap and very easy, and it's very popular for that reason. However, plastic doesn't do everything we need it to. Plastic is relatively soft and not that durable, and it's not where the future lies. I mean, obviously we're always going to need plastic for various applications, and it is light, it's cheap, I mean, it has its benefits. But 3D printing is not going to stop there, and it hasn't stopped there. It's going and going and going. And you may not be familiar with where it's going, how quickly it's going, and where it may end up. So here are a couple of materials that are on the horizon, not necessarily for industry, because industry has kind of already gotten there. Aerospace is making parts out of titanium and stainless steel, and one of the reasons that it's not really in the mindset of, you know, people like us is because it takes much different technology, much more industrial technology, to produce 3D printed parts out of things like titanium and stainless steel. Also, it's very expensive in, like, you know, normal people terms. So titanium and stainless steel are out there. They are in use by aerospace, and one of the things aerospace has is gobs of money. So they can afford to make a pricey piece, especially since a lot of their other manufacturing techniques are very expensive as well. Now, stainless steel and titanium are extremely good, and they are going to get cheaper, and they are going to get more user-friendly, and they are going to become more available to the ordinary person, such as, you know, small-scale artists. And I really would advise that you keep your eye on this as it becomes more popular, cheaper, more available, because once you can expand the range of what you create, your abilities and your talents become more valuable. If you can make stuff out of titanium and stainless steel, you can have somebody 3D print armor or weapons that you design and have them be actual usable products. So you can do armor, you can do weapons. I mean, there's really no limit to it except for your budget and your imagination. In theory, you could do things like automobile parts or entire automobiles eventually. Now, titanium, stainless steel, they're pretty cool and they're pretty versatile. However, that's not the most important, and it's not the most advanced thing out there. What we've got coming down the line is going to be a lot more interesting than that. We have got materials like silicon carbide. Now, silicon carbide is not something you would typically be doing a whole lot with in terms of being an ordinary artist. If you wanted to do a sculpture out of this, it would be very, very difficult. It's extremely hard. This is the sort of stuff that they make non-scratch watch faces out of, and non-scratch screens, so that, you know, it's extremely durable. Now, one of the nice things about materials like silicon carbide, which are super hard, is that potentially you could make a sculpture out of them that could last, thousands of years, and I'm not even exaggerating. We've got marble sculptures that have lasted extreme lengths of time, and they're not even close to the scratch resistance and hardness of a silicon carbide. And the versatility is just going to be amazing. Now, the traditional silicon carbide manufacturing techniques aren't practical for the artist. However, if you read the little thing I've got here, there is a new process involving a polymer which degrades into silicon carbide at relatively low temperatures. Now, when we're talking low temperatures, we're not talking actual low temperatures. It's relative low temperatures, which means we're talking something in the range of a ceramic kiln, which is pretty high, but it's still not prohibitive for an ordinary human being, because normal people do own kilns. If you're into ceramics, you may already have one. So that's the sort of temperature range we're talking about, 1,000 degrees, a couple thousand degrees. So it is possible to do it, and it also comes in a form that can be molded and also potentially 3D printed. Because you can get this material, the precursor material, which is the polymer that degrades into silicon carbide. It's polymethylsilane or something like that. You can get that material. You can get it commercially at this point, and it's not really all that cheap, but it is available. Now, it would be better if you could get it at, obviously, at a cheaper price. It would be better if we could 3D print it, and all of these things are coming down the line. They are on the way. So, potentially, you can make a scratch-proof, almost invulnerable sculpture. And when I say sculpture, I mean 3D object. So, you could design a mug, a sword, a piece of body armor. I mean, you could do all kinds of things with this. Actually, a sword wouldn't be great because it is kind of brittle. But you could design a lot of different objects with it, and it's extremely versatile. And it lets you do things that you traditionally couldn't do with ordinary materials, which opens up possibilities, which is always very, very interesting. So we've got the pure silicon carbide, which you can make using a polymer instead of the normal industrial processes. Now, that may seem pretty cool, but there is something even cooler coming, and that is diamond. Now, there are different processes for making artificial diamond, and they have been very difficult. Generally, you have to have very high pressure and very, very high temperature in order to produce artificial diamond. This renders it a very difficult process and also a very expensive process. However, much like the silicon carbide, there is a polymer available that degrades at relatively modest temperatures. In this case, the article is saying 1,000 degrees Celsius or 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. At relatively modest temperatures, it degrades into a diamond-like material. Now, when I say diamond-like material, I mean it's another crystalline carbon, because diamond is crystallized carbon. Now, this particular one that I'm looking at here, polyhydrocarbon, is potentially even harder than diamond. It occurs naturally, primarily in meteorites, where tremendous pressure occurs when the meteorites hit the Earth, and you've got tremendous pressure, tremendous heat, and it produces these hexagonal diamonds. Now, the hexagonal diamonds that occur in the meteorite process are basically all flawed because you've got a very chaotic creation process, and they are filled with tons of little stress fractures. But using the decomposition method with a polymer, you can create hexagonal diamond. It's going to be super hard and super durable, and they're theorizing that it may be even harder than traditional diamond. So that has tons of potential. I mean, imagine creating a sculpture that is harder than diamond. And personally, I like my stuff to last. If you can create something that is harder than diamond as an art project and 3D print it using powdered polymer that you would then bake in a kiln type environment, I'm not exaggerating. This is something that could last literally for thousands of years. I mean, your sculpture could be there after civilization crumbles and the planet is excavated by aliens like hundreds of thousands of years in the future. So we're talking about materials of extreme durability and strength. Now, this is not just about making something that will last. It's also having the versatility of the material in designing projects. So you could design a car body, an auto body, made of a composite of hexagonal diamond and titanium that would essentially be the body of an armored car. The reason that this is nice is because you would never have to fix your car's body. Your car's body would now be permanent. Somebody shoots a bullet at your car, it just bounces off. So you ram into another car, you may damage other parts, but the body would be a permanent piece of artwork that you could go back and rebuild the car around. In other words, you might break a drive shaft, or you might destroy the engine, but the body of the car, if made of some of these high-tech materials, could last hundreds or thousands of years. Now, it would be expensive. And we're talking probably about $100 a pound with the math that I'm doing. So $100 a pound, it is expensive, but this stuff is going to go a long way. And with high-end vehicles, you do spend a lot of money. I mean, there are high-end sports cars that cost millions. And somebody takes a high-end sports car that they spend millions of dollars on and wrap it around a tree, that investment is pretty much gone. But if you have a high-end sports car with an indestructible body, you can destroy part of the car, but you can't destroy the whole thing. And you can always go back, repair it, and recover some of your investment. So, plus, it would be a status material as well. If having something made out of diamond, at least until it becomes really common, is going to be something that people can brag about. Now, the potential here is just off the charts. And once we get access to the 3D printing of materials like hexagonal diamond, what an artist can make is going to expand dramatically. And in case you're thinking that this is all pie in the sky nonsense that is not going to happen, let's look at Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, if you are familiar with them, is a aerospace titan. These are the people that build fighter jets and heavy-duty military equipment. Now, they have just patented a 3D printer that would use pre-ceramic polymer, which is what we've been talking about, in order to 3D print diamond. So they are already going down this road. And it's inevitable that they would, because the material is so attractive, and you're really not going to get harder than hexagonal diamond, or traditional diamond, which might be what they're shooting for. So, the art materials for a finished reproduction of your work, it's going to expand dramatically. And what you're going to be able to do with art is going to expand dramatically. Now, these things may take a while to get here, but what I would advocate is artists taking the initiative and working with people to get access to these product lines and kind of push that process forward. Unfortunately, unless you do this, some of these processes remain out of reach to the common people for extended periods. I had gone to a local foundry to have some of my art pieces done in stainless steel, and I was pretty serious about it at the time. But when I approached them, they just said, we have a policy of not doing any art casting at all, and they just kind of like told me to go away. So to me that's not good business, but they did pretty much just industrial pieces, and I guess they didn't want to work with people who were, more temperamental and picky and might complain if something didn't turn out beautiful. They just wanted to turn out practical. So not all of these industrial facilities are going to be willing to work with you. And if you allow it to remain in that realm, it's going to be a long time until we really have good access to it, especially at a reasonable price. So, yeah, I would recommend that some of us take the initiative and work with people who are more technical to get these materials into the mainstream. And personally, I think we should just take the initiative ourselves, if at all possible, and get the equipment, develop some of the processes ourselves, and have kind of like an artist's collective that would make these processes available to the art world in general. Get the prices as low as humanly possible, and expand the scope and the reach of, everyday artists. If I could make stuff out of diamond, I would be doing it. I mean, seriously, I have a lot of ideas that have been circulating in my head as to different projects I could do, and I've done the math on this. It works out to about $100 a pound for a diamond object, and that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but a pound of material can go a really long way, especially if you're making things that are hollow, because you don't have to make a sculpture solid. You can have a hollow shell made out of diamond and then fill it with some cheaper material, and you're still going to have that extremely hard surface that will stand up to almost anything and still be standing when when society has fallen and the mutants are running the world. So, keep this in mind. I will be coming back to hopefully talk about the future of art in a future video. And I will take this guy and finish him up on my own time. I don't want to make this video incredibly long, since I've run out of ideas for this part of the series. So here's the progress we've had. I've taken this guy, just given him a nice coat of off-white, given the teeth a little bit whiter color. He's coming along pretty good, and I will finish him up and push him along. If this video has been a little bit rambly, sorry about that. I didn't really rehearse it or anything, like I usually don't. But I hope you found something interesting in here to take away, and I will see you next time. Bye.